Corinthians 14. 1 Corinthians 14, and we'll look at a few things out of here. Next Tuesday night, I'll be in Tennessee, but Brother Graham will be taking care of the class next Tuesday night for me, and I'm sure he'll be doing a great job. Pastoral Administration. Let me just say this. On the homework, I think mine said that each short answer needed to be at least 80 words. And Brother Jonathan hit me up, I guess it was Sunday night in revival, and he said, "Hey, I got a question about this homework." And I said, "Okay." He said, one of those short answers is, how many songs should be sung in a service? He said, "I need to make 80 words out of that." I said, "No, it's fine. It's simple." So if it's something simple like that, you don't have to write 80 words, okay? Why it needs to be 3 songs in a service. But anyway, that was pretty funny. He hit me up on that, and I was thinking, man, what's wrong? And he was about half
He's
this
already
strong.
halfway through that book. I'm jealous.
He read the prayer life in just 1 or 2 nights. He read through that prayer life in just 1 or 2 nights. But anyway, it was funny. All right. 1 Corinthians 14. I'll read you one verse. And this semester, my class is going to be extremely practical. I mean, very practical. But some things that we need to know, that we need to learn. Of course, everybody's going to differ on some of these things. And tonight, we're going to actually look at lesson 1 and lesson 2. I'm going to hit them both tonight. The highlights out of both of them to kind of get us on track, and then Brother Grant will pick up lesson 3 next week. But everybody will differ in conducting a church service. There's no right way. I'm not going to say there's no wrong way, but everybody differs the way people conduct services. Some people does announcements at the end of services. Some people does them in the middle of the services. Some people does them at the very beginning of services. And so if you're pastoring, allow the Lord to lead you, okay? So we, by no way, shape, or form, am I trying to dictate the way that you do some of these things. It's just some practical things to put in your hip pocket and to use when that day comes. So here's what the Bible said in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse number 40. Let all things be done decently and in order. Let all things be done decently and in order. And how true that is tonight. And church services should be done decently and in order. Anyway, I'm going to keep moving because I don't want to get in trouble. But they should be done decently and in order, all right? Now, again, allow the Holy Ghost to lead you on how to conduct that service. We're the world's worst as fundamental, independent, premillennial, white horse riding, judgmental Baptists to say that we do not have an agenda and we do not give you an outline of the way the service is. We might as well, though. We might as well, because if you come to Amazing Grace on Sunday morning, we're going to open up with a song. After that song is opened up with, I'm going to give the prayer list. We're going to have a word of prayer. The choir's going to sing 2 songs unless the Lord gets in it, and then they'll sing 3. But we're going to have 2 songs. After those 2 songs, everybody's going to stand up and shake hands as the choir's coming down, and then I'm going to make a few announcements. We're going to have the offering and a special song during that offering, and then I'm in the pulpit preaching. That's just the way it's going to work. And so let's be careful saying that we don't have a bulletin of the way our service is going to go. Now, if the Lord gets in that, all that's thrown out the window. But there has to be a little bit of order to things. And that's what we're going to talk about in this first part, is conducting a church service. Now, we're going to talk about the Sunday school part, and then after we talk about the Sunday school part, we'll talk about the worship service. Now, as we think about this, he deals with several different things in this, and really what I am doing, especially tonight, is just walking right down through your book. 99% of what I'm going to say tonight is right inside of your book. Now, of course, I'll add some things to it. He talks about Sunday school. Time is the key. The pastor and the Sunday school superintendent should set the example by arriving at least 30 minutes ahead of time. The same applies to the musicians. And if I can get my Sunday school superintendent there 5 minutes after it starts, I'm happy. But anyway, Mac's just not going to be on time. It's just not going to happen. It drives me crazy. I fuss about it. But he's just not going to be, so he gets somebody else to open up for Sunday school. And that works fine with me. So our 99% of the time, it's one of our young preachers. And if it's not one of our young preachers, it's one of the other men in our church that opens up for Sunday school. Promptness. If Sunday school is to begin at 9:45, you should start promptly. And can I just say this? A pet peeve of mine is to walk into the church. It's supposed to start at 7 o'clock. And at 10 minutes after 7, everybody's still standing around. Yes. Let's go to church. Yeah. Let's go to church. People's respectful enough to get there, and it's already getting tight in here, but I don't care. People's respectful enough to get there. Let's be respectful enough to start. And you say, well, I want to talk to people. Well, get there early. Or stay late. Amen. If it starts at Sunday school at 9:45, somebody's walking to the piano at Amazing Grace. They're not walking to it at 9:45. They're sitting at the piano at 9:45. Either Madeline is or Cassie is. And they play, and by 9:47, the young preacher or one of the other men in our church is up opening up Sunday school. So promptness. If Sunday school starts at 9:45, then start at 9:45. Now, he gives an outline. There should be at least 5 minutes of music prior to the opening song. He gives it, Rose Simpson gives an outline out here. Order of service, welcome, outline of Sunday school lessons, birthdays, anniversaries, etc. Now, we don't do that. Now, I'm not saying that you're wrong if you do that. Again, that's up to the individual pastor, the individual church, the individual opening up Sunday school. That's completely on you, but personally we don't do that at Amazing Grace. Note, the Sunday school superintendent must be considerate of the time and should allow 5 minutes between dismissal of the opening assembly and entering the classroom, which means he should take no more than 10 minutes to complete his responsibilities. Now, here is our rule at Amazing Grace. Unless the Lord moves in at 10 miles deep, our rule at Amazing Grace, Brother Heath knows this, Brother Jonathan, when he was there, knew this, Brother Cody knows this, Brother Chris knew this, Brother Ryan knows this, but here's our rule. 9:45, they start playing the piano. By 9:47, 9:48, they're off the piano, they're standing up, they're giving their opening, and I told them this is not time to preach, this is not time to teach Sunday school lesson, this is the time to take 5 minutes and say, hey, look, here's a verse that's helped me this week. And at 10 o'clock, we need to be walking out the doors going to Sunday school at 10 o'clock. You say, well, what if they go way over that? They're probably going to get a group message that says, hey, guys, we need to be going out the door at 10 o'clock headed to Sunday school. Here's the reason why. You say, well, man, I've studied for this 5 minutes and the Lord really got in it. Well, what about at our church? What about the 16 other people that studied to teach Sunday school? That's right. That's poured their heart into a lesson all week to teach Sunday school. Yeah. Is it fair for us to stand up when we're supposed to have 5 minutes that we prepared for and take away from the 45 minutes that Sunday school teacher has studied for? Now, I am, and again, that's just me. I'm very... That I am very strong on that. Let's move. It's Sunday school time. There is times that God settles in. There is times that we don't ever make it to Sunday school. Yes, but when I say there's times, I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 times a year that we do that. Maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Because it's Sunday school. That's what that is. You say, well, we met to worship. We will at 11. Yeah, sure. We will at 11. But those teachers has worked, those teachers has prepared. So be considerate of that. Be considerate of that. As we think about classroom preparation, now we've left from the opening of Sunday school. And not everybody does an opening of Sunday school. Some people don't. Some people go straight to Sunday school class. and starts promptly at 10 o'clock in the Sunday school class. And if that's what somebody does, that's great. We just always started at 9:45 since I've been there. That's just when we've always started. And I personally like that. Gives you a little time. We all go around the altar and pray. And kind of gives you that little bit of time for those stragglers to make it to Sunday school by 10 o'clock. All right? So classroom preparation, and I got just a couple things in this. The teacher is under the authority of the local church and is to stay within the time frame and stop the lesson when the bell rings for the close of Sunday school. Now, we don't have a bell. If they get going too long, the preacher opens the door and goes, "It's time to go to church." And you say, "Well, what if they got in it?" It's time to go to church. Yeah. It's time to go to church. And that's just me. You say, "Well, what, God's moved 10 miles deep?" He'll be 11 miles deep when we get in the auditorium again. If it's real, it'll continue out here. And you say, "Well, what if you make the Sunday school teacher mad?" Well, then we'll talk after that Sunday school teacher, after we get done at 11 o'clock service. Amen. But do be considerate. If you're a teacher, be considerate of that. 9:45, our classes are winding down no later, not 9:45, but 10:45, no later than 10:50. And if it's rolled to 10:55, and somebody's still in Sunday school, I'm opening the door, sticking my head in, going, "Hey, it's time to go to church." So do remember that and be prompt on that. And I guess Brother Jeremy's out there. He is. Okay, be prompt on that. And be prompt on that, and do remember that. And remember that the Sunday school teacher does fall underneath the pastor. It says it's important that all materials for the Sunday school be consistent and in accordance with the church doctrine and approved by the pastor. Approved by the pastor. And I want to say this, when the day comes that you pastor a church, there's no Sunday school curriculum going to be taught in our church unless I look at it first. I'm going to know that it's right. I'm going to know that it's sound doctrine. I'm going to know that it's King James. And there is some great stuff out there today. As far as teenagers and adult classes, in my personal opinion, it's hard to beat Paul Chapel. It's hard to beat their stuff. It really is. It's dynamite. I mean, it is dynamite. Matter of fact, go ahead.
We teach 3 or 4 weeks out of one lesson.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We do too. We do too. And I want to say this in the Sunday school. Our young adult class is completely different than any of our other classes, because our young adult class, when they go in, they're actually in the fellowship hall. When they go in, which they've either got biscuits or donuts and coffee. They're liberal out there, and they'll drink 2 pots of coffee during Sunday school. But
running out while you preach.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But they break out actually in their class. The men go to one side of the fellowship hall, the women go to the other side of the fellowship hall. And we've got an older couple that stays in that class, Brother Joe and Miss Debbie Howard. And Brother Joe takes the young adult men to the side, and he reads just a verse or so, and then they have that small group session where the man says, "Here's something that I really need you to help me pray about this week." And the ladies talk to Miss Debbie, and they have that prayer time together, and then they come back together and have their class. But they'll go 3 to 4 weeks, and Brother Jonathan knows that. He taught in that class with Paul Chapel stuff. It's amazing. It's awesome. Matter of fact, our couples retreats next week, and they just done a book. It's called "Are We There Yet?" And it's the best that I've read. It's the best that them and Brother Mike and Miss Amy Edwards just put out a book also that's got some dynamite stuff in it. But anyway, there's some great curriculum out there. There's some great stuff out there for your Sunday school classes. This is me personally. Brother Jeremy can chime in on this, or Brother Brian if he wants to. This is me personally. I like having a quarterly or a book to work through in the Sunday school classes. It keeps them on track more. Yeah. It keeps them consistent more. And that's us. Go ahead.
The pastor's mind at ease that things are being taught that's right.
Yes, sir.
If you ever are teaching a Sunday school class and have a question about a doctrine, make sure what you're going to teach lines up with what your pastor believes, even if you don't believe it yourself. Don't ever teach anything contrary in a Sunday school class. than the way your pastor believes. You don't undermine the authority of that church.
And we had that happen. We had that happen. The individual's not at our church any longer, but I had to bring them in and question it over. Brother Chris probably remembers that. It's been years ago. But I had to bring them in and question them over that. And they got upset with me. So make sure those things are lining up. And that's a good point. It don't matter whether you line up with that pastor and you say, that pastor's wrong. That's between him and the Lord. That's between him and the Lord. He is the supreme authority in that church. It's not that we set ourselves upon a pedestal, but that pastor will give an account to God for everything that goes on in that church, in Sunday school, in prayer room, and everything that goes on. So there's some things to think about on that. In classroom preparation, he walks them through here, gives several good examples in here, and do remember that. Sunday morning worship service. And again, this is just some suggestions. This does not mean that we're trying to indoctrinate this into your mind and say, this is the way you run a service. It's just some suggestions. And you know what I found out? First year I pastored, I knew everything. But after that, I found out that the Lord's give us some men that's writing today, that's got a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
And you know what? If they pastored for 40 or 50 years and things is working all right for them, it might do me good as a young punk trying to figure out how to pastor to follow some of those things and to go along with some of those things. Here's the way he talks it out. Time is element. And that is true. On a Sunday morning service, I watch the time more than I do in any other service. Here's the reason why. 99% of the time, you're going to have more visitors on Sunday morning than you are any other time. And I'm just going to tell you something. If I'm visiting church for the first time and I'm not going to church, if I'm visiting church for the first time and I go there and they keep me to 12:45, 1 o'clock, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
You've got to have the mindset of a lost man that don't attend church.
That's right.
And that might be contrary to anything you've ever heard. If it is, I'm sorry. But that's just, time is an essence.
Yes, sir. Amen.
We're not geared today to sit in a 2-hour service.
No.
Now, even the tent meetings, a lot of times God has to get in at 10 miles deep for it to even go 2 hours in one of those. Coming up in our winter meeting, the services will be a little bit longer. It will in our winter meeting because that's what we're going to do. We know that. Going into that winter meeting, there's 2 preachers booked in it. We have nowhere to go. We set aside those 2 days and man, we just go to meeting. But when we're thinking about a Sunday morning service, here's the way our Sunday morning goes. At 11 o'clock sharp, probably about 2 minutes till 11, Brother Matt's going to start opening with a song. And by about 3 or 4 minutes after 11, we're opening with prayer. We've had the congregation song. We're opening with prayer. Our choir's going to sing a couple of songs. If God gets in it, they may sing till 1 o'clock if that's what God wants. But let everything be done what in decent and in order. That's in the Bible.
Right.
That's straight from God's Word.
Amen.
That's from God's Word. And no later. I mean, it's blowed plumb out the top if I'm not in the pulpit preaching at 11:30. By 11:30 on Sunday mornings, I'm in the pulpit. At the very latest, 11:35. Unless God's got the other Sunday morning, Mama got to singing, power of God fell, and at 11:25, 11:30, Mama was still singing This Is the Truth. She got done singing, I stood up and said, God's met with us. I don't need to preach 10 hours. I don't need to preach 10 minutes. If God's met with us, let's stand with our heads bowed and our eyes closed. At 11:45, we walked out of church. And can I tell you something? God done more in that 45 minutes than He's done in a lot of our services that went an hour and a half.
Yes,
We have to be sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit of God in conducting a church service. But do remember this. Try to be respectful of that time. Try to have something in your mind. That's the way that we do. That's Amazing Grace. And 99% of the time in Amazing Grace, by Brother Heath, at least no later than 15 after 12, isn't it? Right. Usually by about 5 or 10 minutes after 12, we're done. We're done. We've got youth church on Sunday mornings. If you're having a youth church on Sunday mornings, you got to take that into consideration. All the kids are out there. Brother Heath's had them for an hour and 10 minutes now, and he's about to pull his hair out. The kids are hungry. They want to go home. Some of them's been there since 9:30 that morning. So just take that into consideration in conducting a church service. So
Something on junior church that, I mean, everybody does it different, this is just an idea. I really didn't like our kids not getting in on worship with a junior church, but I still wanted them to have a junior church. So what I would do is I would have them there for the whole worship part of the service, and then we would have a dismissal of the junior church, and my workers only had them for 30 minutes. Didn't pull their hair out near as much, and if it got on, they were there.
they're still in it.
They were there in it. Another thing, preachers will preach on every prayer request and every announcement.
Oh, yeah.
And that will kill a church. It will kill a church. I don't even do prayer requests on Sunday morning. We do it in open and Sunday school, because I want everything chum, chum, chum. So, anywho, I'm done.
No, that's true though. And a lot of times a preacher will preach 30 minutes in an offering.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to preach at least 45 seconds
In a prayer.
Yeah.
on you need to give. But here's the thing. We have Wednesday night prayer meeting.
Yeah.
And that's when we really slow down on Wednesday nights. Now, we watch the clock on Wednesday night more than we do on Sunday night because we have Discovery Bible Club on Wednesday nights. But on Wednesday nights, we take open prayer requests. We take open prayer requests. And I'm just going to say this, and then I'll get this at on the funeral quickly. But I'm just going to say this. I don't, if Billy Joe's sitting in the choir, sitting in the congregation while the choir's singing and says, "Hey, sing what a day that'll be. I like that one right there." We're not going to do it. Here's the reason why. If that song leader has done what he's supposed to do, then he's prayed, and he just didn't get up there and say, "Hey, let's do number 13 and number 17 today." But he's prayed and asked God, "God, help me know what songs to sing." And you know what? Just as I prayed for a message, that song leader should have prayed for what songs to sing in that service.
Yes, sir.
And it's probably God has spoken to that song leader about what songs to sing, and not Sammy that's sitting out there in the service and hadn't prayed one bit about what songs to sing. What a day just stirs his emotion because he thinks about his grandma that died 32 years ago. Sammy might not be saved. Sometimes I question my song leader saving anyway. No, I'm just kidding. But that's true. There's so much to think about and take into consideration. And I want to say this to you. If you pastor, or when the day comes that you pastor, you should talk to your musicians about that.
Yeah.
You should talk to your song leader about that and say, "Hey, look, I'm just not interested in 3 songs.
That's right.
I'm interested in you spending time with God before Sunday morning
Yeah.
at 11:45 on what to sing on Sunday morning."
Amen.
Yeah.
So there you
That's
go.
good.
Good bulletin.
Yes, and that's
Save you a lot
in
of
here.
time on Sunday mornings.
And bulletins are great. We don't do one. We do slides. We use
Well, I was gonna say that.
our PowerPoint, and we play our announcements right up. The choir's already standing there, and as the opening song starts, then we pull the screen up. And here's just something that I'm seriously thinking about doing. I've tinkered with it a little bit, but I'm seriously thinking about, we're not even going to do announcements until the end of service. And right at the end of service, then do them in. Because here's the thing, the preacher gets up and gives the announcements right before the offering, right after the choir sits down. And by the time service is over and you go home, your wife says, "Well, why didn't you announce what I asked you?" I did announce it. Don't nobody remember. So I'm really thinking about starting in January. At the end of the services, Brother Heath doing the announcements at the end of the service. That gives me time to get to the back door, get ready to shake hands.
Another reason, a good bulletin, piece of paper, they can take it home.
Yeah, that's great.
Man, we're paperless at Amazing Grace. We went green. Hey, come to our church. You ain't got money? No problem. We got 2 credit card machines. We went that far out.
The thing
Okay.
about a bulletin is, and I'm for the screens, I want screens, just can't afford to run out. Make sure it's first class.
Absolutely. Anything.
Anyway, I don't want to talk about it.
Anything. Make sure it's first class. Visitors packets.
Yeah.
And I'll deal with some of these things. Visitors packets, and one of the nights I'm gonna bring ours and show you what we do. I don't know what everybody else does. I know what we do. But if we have a first-time visitor on Sunday mornings at Amazing Grace, we have a first-time visitor after service. they meet with my wife and I don't shake hands. I'll send Brother Heath and Miss Morgan back there if they're not in youth church. I'll send Brother Ryan and Miss Megan to shake hands, or Brother Cody and Miss Sarah. I'll send somebody else to shake hands. And we actually have a hospitality room. And those visitors come to our hospitality room, and because we're out of ways, we offer them, here's a nice snack to take home on your ride home. We've got a refrigerator in it full of drinks, diet drinks, sugar-free drinks. We got coffee machines, and then we give them a really nice visitors packet from our church. And Leslie and I meets with that family as soon as service is over. And I'm going to tell you, it has proven to really help. Matter of fact, there's been sometimes on Sunday mornings after service that we've stayed back there for 15 and 20 minutes with first-time visitors saying, well, what about this about the church? Or what about this about the church? And some of them is now there greeting people on Sunday morning as they come in. So it's a great thing. It's a great thing.
Amazing grace of God that's really impressive is their cigar lounge.
Oh, yeah. Drew Estates stays in there.
Might visit Sunday morning.
There's conducting the church service. It's 2 minutes after 7, after 7. I'm gonna go to about 10 minutes after, and then we'll take a little break. But on a funeral, and really, I want you to read through what Brother Ronnie or Dr. Simpson talks about in the funeral, because this is a time. And this what I'm going to say sounds horrible. I don't mean it the way it's going to sound, but this is one of your biggest open doors as a preacher.
That's exactly right.
This is, if I get called out to do a funeral, I'm not excited for their loss, but I am excited to minister to their family.
Right. Yes,
It is one of the biggest open doors.
right.
And I probably, more so than anybody in here, have the privilege of ministering to people in their time of need like this than anybody else because of my role with the sheriff's office in the county. Our death notifications and things like I get called out a lot on things like that. And when somebody has just lost a loved one, it's one of the greatest times to minister to a family. It's one of the greatest times. Now, I'm just going to hit a couple highlights on this. And I want you to read what he says. But I want to read a couple highlights, or I just want to mention a couple things to you on this. Number one, at that time, it's not a time for you to show them how educated you are in the Bible.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're called at 2 o'clock in the morning and someone has just lost a loved one, it's not time for you to go in with your Bible underneath your arm and preach a message. Condemn me if you want to right here. One of the best classes that I've been to on this was put on by the Billy Graham Evangelistical Association. And it was a class I went through with the sheriff's office or the police department on sharing hope in times of crisis. And one of their big things in that class is a ministry of presence. A ministry of presence. Just being there.
Yeah.
Just being there. You don't have to say a word. Halloween night, I was at the sheriff's office that evening. I was actually in our CID department downstairs in the courtroom or the courthouse, and the captain, our cell phones don't work in there, and one of the captains called me down there, and he said, "Where you at?" And I said, "Well, I'm at the number you just called me on. That's where I'm at," being sarcastic like Brother Jeremy sometimes. And he said, "Well, look, I need you to meet me. I'm coming out there to get you right now. We've got to get to this call." And I said, "Okay." So I run out there, jumped in the vehicle with him. Me and him took off down the road. It was pouring down rain. We was flying. I was praying because I really thought I was going to die because the Jeep Cherokee is not pursuit rated in pouring down rain. But anyway, we got there, and after we was there a while and started to leave, one of the other officers looked at me, and here's what he said. He said, "Man, you was off quiet today." And I looked at him, and this was my reply to him. Sometimes you just need to be quiet. And at this point, when you're called out a family calls you, it's not time to go in and let me tell you what the scripture says. Shake a hand, hug a neck. This is true. I've had them fall in my arms. I have carried people to a vehicle and put them in a vehicle before. I have literally picked them up, carried them, set them in a vehicle because they couldn't drive, and said, here's where we're going, and drove them to that location and carried them in the house and set them down. And if you're around death much, especially sudden death, it will absolutely blow your mind for a little while. And learning how to act in those times are so important. Just be there. Just listen to it. Never tell them, I know how you feel. Because you don't. You don't. You say, well, they lost their dad and I've lost my dad. Their relationship with their dad and your relationship with your dad is completely different.
Yes, sir.
We don't know how they feel. And then here's one of my pet peeves. I can't stand it. It's just a pet peeve of mine. In a time of bereavement, somebody walk up and go, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, how do you think they're doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know, how do you think they're doing?
It's true.
How do you think they're doing? I actually heard one lash back on that one time. An individual walked up to him. It was a crisis. It was a bad situation, and an individual just lost a loved one. And another preacher walked up and he said, "How you doing?" And they proceeded to tell them how they was doing, and they used several adjectives in it. So how do you think I'm doing? How do you think? He's just told me that my family member is gone. How do you think I'm doing? Oh, I'm great. Here's what I say. How you holding up? That's what I say. That's how you holding up. Because they're doing horrible. How you holding up? And that funeral service in the time of death, I got people come to my church today because of that. That's the way I met them. That's the way I met them. And I loved them, and I was good to them, and that's the way I got my foot in the door. And love them during that time. Don't preach them a message. Love them during that time. If the funeral, and read through the book, because it's got a lot of good stuff. If the funeral is going to be at your church, if it's going to be at Amazing Grace, I'm going to approve the music.
Right.
And I'm going to approve the other preacher that's going to have a part in it.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm going to make sure he's using the King James. If he's not, he's not. He's just not doing it. If it is in a chapel at another place, it's different. It's different. Some people differ with me on this. I have had parts in services that I don't know what the other guy was reading out of. I have no clue. I don't know what he said.
Right.
But it went at my church, and it was a time for me to share the gospel
Right.
with a lot of people that never goes to church.
Right.
Sure.
So remember that. As pastors, I personally think funeral services and graveside services is a great time to pull our young preacher in and give them some training. I try, if I'm doing a funeral, especially if it's at our church and I'm over it and I'm over the cemetery, I'll always try to have one of my young preachers pray with the family before we go in and do part in the graveside service. It's just a good, you can't practice graveside. I guess you can.
Keep it short.
Keep it short. I remember kids, keep it short, stupid.
And wear something presentable. I had a funeral at Walters Grove. A guy visited, another preacher would help me. I didn't know him. And he came to the church. Jeremiah, you remember this. And his tie was the yellow smiley faces all over it.
Good grief.
For a funeral.
Oh my goodness.
Stupid.
Yeah.
And turn your phone on. Look, there's one time that I don't have my phone. There's two times when I'm in the pulpit preaching, I don't have my phone, and that's one reason that I'm against the smartwatch in the pulpit, because it'll distract you.
Yeah.
it'll distract you. If you, I don't, that's up you and the Lord, but I'm just telling you personally, when your hand goes to vibrating and you're in the middle of preaching, and the devil will use that to get your mind of what you're doing.
Especially if Marty Roberts was a member of your church, he texts you.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. Put your iPad, when you start preaching, put your iPad on airplane mode so text messages don't come
He
through.
does, my phone will go off.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know.
He'll say, what version was that? I'll get it, I'm gonna slap it.
Yeah, I'll get tongue tangled and 2 or 3 will text me and say, now what was you trying to say? And I used to not put it on airplane mode so they would start popping up as I was looking down. And I would stop and then I'd look up and Tina would be laughing. Brian would be laughing. So put it on airplane mode. But I want to say this, when you do a funeral, don't even take your phone in with you. Don't even take it in with you. If I'm visiting your church, I got my phone in my pocket and it's on vibrate. Here's the reason why. Because number 1, my family may need me. Number 2, my church may need me. My church pays for that. And they may need me and I keep it with me. And number 3, with my position in the county, I keep my phone with me in case they need me. And that's just what I do. But when I go into a funeral, it's the honest truth. I was in a funeral, a phone rang. I wasn't doing it. I was just there. It's public relations. Y'all understand what I'm saying? It was somebody in the church's brother, sister's aunt's uncle. And I hadn't seen them in 42 years, but everybody had to go to the funeral. And I went as public relations. That's what I call it. I went as a PR event. And I was sitting there in the phone rang. And I thought, I knew it wasn't mine. Because I don't take mine in. I knew it wasn't mine. And I looked around and I thought, Lord goodness, somebody's answering the phone. And it kept ringing and it kept ringing. The preacher has got his coat on and he goes, I just have to call him back. Puts the phone back in his coat pocket. It's the preacher's phone. About 45 seconds went by. Ring, 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 ring. Hey, I'm doing a funeral and I'll just have to call you back later. Now quit bothering me. Hung up his phone and put it back in his pocket.
Good grief.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Same guy had
It's sad. It's sad. All right, I'm done.
5 minutes, guys.
He's supposed to.